From the Attention Era Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. I am Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Hello, Simon Provan. How are we doing, sir?
Baxter, I'm doing great. How about yourself, being a new daddy?
I'm doing really well, honestly. I'm very excited. It's a great time in the Colburn household, and all is certainly right with the world for sure.
Well, that's awesome. And how's your little guy doing? I didn't announce his name because I wanted to share.
You were definitely you were teasing people.
Yeah.
If they're Facebook friends with us, they know that obviously what the name is. But if you don't know, then we decided to name my son Beckham. So some were like, oh, like Bennett, like Beckham. I'm like, yes and no. Like when my wife and I were talking about potential names for our son, we said, you know what, we're just rolling through a bunch of names, and we kept coming back to just the name Beckham because it's not a very common first name. I'm
sure.
Like it rolls well. He has the same initials that I do as well too.
Cool.
So we didn't want to do the whole junior thing. So we're like, let's kind of change it. I've got a unique first name. Now he kind of does as well too. So, but he was a very healthy boy, 7 pounds, 18 inches, and continues to grow and look even cuter each and every day.
Awesome.
So it's an exciting
time.
Well,
congratulations.
Sure. Thank you.
It is. It's the only time in your life where you're okay to be tired because you know why you're tired. It's the best reason in the world to be tired.
And that's the funny question because everyone's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm tired, but I'm great. Like you get up, you do the feedings, you move on, and you just continue to spend time. And he's a week old officially today too, so that's kind of a crazy thought. My wife this morning was like, "Oh, he's a week old." I'm like, I know. We have to start applying for colleges tomorrow.
Exactly. You've heard everybody say it. It goes so fast.
Yes.
I can't believe I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. It's crazy.
That's got to be crazy, especially. But no, we're mom's happy and healthy. I'm happy and mostly healthy, and baby is doing exceptionally well also. So. Thank you for holding down the fort while I was
absolutely.
Well.
I did my best. I don't know if it was great, but I did my best.
It worked. No, you did a good job. Absolutely. But I'm thrilled to be back. We only have one show this week for you, as Thursday is Thanksgiving. So please go and spend time with your family and friends and argue who the next U.S. men's national team head coach should be and all that other great stuff. But also, at the end of the day, just be thankful for all the blessings and everything, exciting things that you have in your life. We have something to be thankful for on our show today, Simon. We have a new sponsor that's going to be joining us. So that's an exciting time. You were very busy in the sponsor world while I was gone, and were able to bring in another fantastic gentleman that knows his way around not only the soccer world, but the Milwaukee scene as a whole. And he is we're gonna let him obviously introduce what he does, but a man that many friends around the Milwaukee area know as Fred Gillich. Fred, you're probably one of the most rad people I've ever met, and now you get to join Two Up Front as a sponsor. Welcome to the show, sir. How you doing?
Good, guys. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Fred. And I was gonna introduce your company as a whole, but I know that you've got a fun way that you like to introduce it. So, what company do you officially represent?
My company is Too Much Metal. It's an independent source, free thinking and rad T-shirts. I like to call it, smart shirts for smart people, man. It's basically a lot of Milwaukee pride stuff. It's, things that kind of provoke you, make you look at things a little bit differently. And, it's something I've been doing for a pretty long time, and I'm pretty dang lucky that I get to do this for a living. I'll say that.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
It's not every day you get to express creativity and have people actually care. So that, I don't take that for granted any day, and I'm so happy that I get to work with you guys who also are very good and humble about the things that you guys do. So I think, I'm more than happy to support you guys.
Well, we appreciate that, Fred, and we know that your expertise is certainly unique, but a lot of people really love what you do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Fred, we know that you've got deals with the Milwaukee Bucks, with the Milwaukee Torrent, and of course, let's not forget you also now write for the Shepherd Express. Why don't you give a little info on that as well?
Yeah, I do, and it's a really cool project. It's called Make Milwaukee Rad. And it's basically, a conversation with, culture makers, influencers, and kind of do-gooders, people that really make a difference or at least attempt to shape the city that they live in. So they advocate for it. And I thought, well, we need to find out who these people are, shine a light on them, and have them share their story, our story.
And I think that you're doing a great job with that. I've had the opportunity to catch a couple of the videos and articles that you've already done for the Shepherd Express, and it's true that it's definitely those people don't always get the opportunity to really get to the forefront of what's going on. And I think the fact that what you're doing has been a great way to highlight the exceptional skills that these people might have, or talents as well.
They're there. A lot of these cats are a lot more visible than we kind of give them credit for, and it's kind of the oil and the grease or the solar energy that powers the stuff that maybe we kind of overlook because somebody else has a bigger voice. And I just feel like there's a lot of misrepresentation sometimes with what we think people who do good things are. And so I thought, well, I know all these people have something to say, let's listen to them.
Fred, going back to Too Much Metal, of course, people can find you at the festivals in Milwaukee, which our city is very well known for.
Oh, yeah.
Walking around, people with their 414 stuff on, their Cooler by the Lake hoodies. But you do have a showroom. Why don't you let people know where your showroom is?
Yeah, the shop is in the 3rd Ward. It's on the corner of Water and Buffalo with the Marshall Building. It's the first thing you see on the 3rd floor. I know it's a little bit of 3rd floor retail, but for all the good things, man, you got to go searching for them, man. Well, that's where all the cool happens.
Hey, not only that, but you get a little more healthy going to your shop, so that's a great bonus as well.
Well, I'd like to advocate for a fit lifestyle, man. You can't just be hanging out in the bars eating beer and sausage and cheese all day and watching the Packers. I mean, although that's cool.
That's a good life to live, though, for many people. I don't see why that's a problem
here.
That
off a little bit, man. So you got to jog a couple of flight of stairs. But I guess we have 2 elevators that I'm facing right now, so it's not that hard to get here. It's right on the corner of Water and Buffalo. There's a sign on the corner that says "Rad T-shirts, 3rd floor." I'm sure everyone has seen it. It's been out there for the last 5 years. The guys over at Milwaukee Blacksmith are making me a new one as we speak.
Oh.
So it's helping out local. That's a little bit of news right there. I like to give back to the people who live in the city and work in the city. So I said, hey man, let's put these dudes to work, and they're going to make something really fantastic and special. So I can't wait for it to be on that corner.
Fred, I want to switch gears for a moment and talk a little bit about your love for soccer and sports as a whole, too. I know that you're involved with the Milwaukee Torrent, as Simon mentioned earlier, the professional soccer team here in Milwaukee. But walk us through a little bit about your fandom a little bit. I mean, it's always fun to hear how everybody gets their story of the team that they support. But who do you favor as your team that you will live and die by?
That's a good question. You're putting me on the spot. Well, I mean, I'll tell you this, man. As an immigrant, I definitely have a proclivity for my German national team. I'm not going to lie. That's my team. I don't care what anyone says. I love Die Mannschaft.
There's nothing wrong with that. They're a fantastic team.
They are, man. And so that's the team I get behind. I mean, I've got my Bayern Munichs, my Arsenals, my Barca. I even actually like my Seattle Sounders.
Okay.
So I'll watch them in the MLS. It's just a struggle to watch MLS play, but the championships at the end of the year, the playoff system, is perhaps when it gets really exciting to watch. I suppose it's like, any other sport, the best talent in league play comes up towards the end of the season.
Exactly.
So, yeah, man, that's kind of who I get behind, So I grew up with that stuff in my house when I was a kid, and, we played in the alley or in the fields with all of our friends, and we'd get organized, and then we realized it was more fun to play not organized soccer.
Yep.
And so we did. And so that's kind of where that came from. Because it's easy to pickup games were the best way to make new friends. And I think as a platform, soccer allows you to do that. You have to be truthful with each other when you play the game. There's no, I didn't get a chance to do this, or I missed that, because you'll miss a pass. You'll know. People will know. And so you get to be cool, and you get to make new friends that way. And there's something honest about, great little pickup games. Where and I suppose any sport, but maybe soccer more in particular because it invites the entire world, you get a real multi-culti experience,
Exactly. You're absolutely right about that.
And Fred, of course, we love the fact that you do love soccer, which makes this marriage of 2 up front and Too Much Metal a special one. We talked about your showroom. We talked about people can find you at all the festivals. What about online? Where can people find you?
Yeah, it's simple. TooMuchMetal.com. TOOMuchMetal.com.
And I'm assuming you got a Facebook page out there as well?
Yeah, it's all there. Yeah, it's there as well. It's all on the website. All the social links connect through. So whatever you need to know or find out about me is all on the website.
Perfect. Well, Fred, we are excited to have you join our sponsorship. You'll be sponsoring the Kick Around, so we will definitely be excited.
I'd like to add, might I add that I really like the professionalism, the way you guys handle your show. It's probably one of the, the few opportunities we had to partner on a few events over the summer. I was really impressed with what you guys put the show together, and that level of quality is, I think, what anybody who loves what they do should like aspire to produce or express, because there's no plan. You guys like do it the right way. You do it legit, and that's what I like the most about you guys. You don't cut corners. You care about the quality and the excellence and the experience, and that's the number one reason, mostly, that I wanted to partner with you guys.
Well, we appreciate that, Fred. We're very excited for the partnership going forward. We got to let you run because we got to get to a break, but we're so excited to have Too Much Metal sponsor the Kick Around. So thanks a ton, Fred. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have fun, man.
All right,
Absolutely.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, Bianca Verar of VAVEL USA will be here to help us sort through everything going on with the NWSL, the W League, and, of course, that 60-minute special that's got everybody stirring. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. Back right after this. Welcome back to Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios. This is Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Simon Provan. We roll along with the show after a great little opening segment, the Kick Around, at a different note in our first segment, but an exciting time when we get to introduce a new sponsor, though.
Absolutely. So now we get to start saying the Kick Around, brought to you by Too Much Metal for One Hand.
Yes, it is exciting times here at Two Up Front. And, of course, if you'd like to get on board with the sponsors, you can go to our website, twoupfrontsoccer.com, to find out more information about how you can join the sponsorship team.
Yeah, absolutely. Check us out on Facebook, too, while you're at it, Two Upfront Soccer. And what the heck, find us on Twitter as well, at Two Upfront Soccer, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. Of course, with Baxter having a new child and with me wrapping up a performance of Laura Ingalls Wilder Christmas, we haven't been too active on our Facebook and Twitter feeds.
No.
But we'll get back into action now that life is kind of settling down a bit.
You're going to get a lot of baby pictures from me if you follow me or are friends with me on Facebook currently. I mean, he's just so darn cute. I mean, when you name your kid Beckham and he's fourth Italian, he's just going to be darn adorable. So that's my wife's words, of course, not mine. Anyway, well, we get to move along with the program. We've got a good friend of the show joining us. She is the NWSL editor of VAVEL USA. It's Bianca Verar, and she joins us on the program now. Bianca, welcome back to Two Up Front.
Hi, thanks. Glad to be back.
We are excited to have you back, Bianca. It's been a chaotic off-season for the NWSL, I think is the best way to put it. Chaos, pandemonium. Nobody really knows what's going on.
Yeah, especially when you're talking Washington Spirit and Boston Breakers.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Can you kind of help us figure things out? I don't know if even you have it fully sorted out, and you know a lot about this league that so many people are in love with, but Is what's going on in the NWSL this offseason a good thing or a bad thing for the league?
I feel like a lot of it is either way. I think it depends on how you look at it. Obviously, with Boston bringing in a lot of internationals, deciding to change their roster for the better, that's great for them. For the Spirit, I know they've been under a lot of hot water lately with a bunch of people leaving, plenty of things going on otherwise. So some teams will come out stronger and other teams are kind of not looking too great right now.
Yeah, and I think Washington is doing the best they can, of course, to try to re-sign players and bring in new players, of course, to kind of make up for the fact of losing Ali Krieger and, so many other talented players so far. But is this going to be a case of how we see Washington this year? They were second, they went to the finals. Are they going to even be above 7th place next year? Is that too outlandish to say this early on without fully knowing all the players they're going to have yet?
I don't see them doing as well as they did this season, but then again, no one really saw New York going for the championship.
True.
So
that's the thing. I mean, Simon and I, we've talked about that on the show all the time. We're like, next season's going to be crazy. And even Paul Riley said that when he was on the show a couple weeks ago. He's like, Houston's getting better. Boston's getting better. Sky Blue. He's like, there's so many teams that are getting better. And who knows? He's like, we don't know if we're going to even be in the playoffs again next year, even regardless of the fact that we're playing for a championship. So it's funny to see how a league like the NWSL, even though they've only been around for 4 years, is already so unpredictable. But in a good way, I'd like to think, at least, Bianca, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot more competition now with more players coming in, and the college players that come in now, they're just so much more technically gifted, and it's very interesting to watch, and I'm very excited to see what happens next season.
One thing that's going on right now that I think a lot of folks are getting their soccer fixed by is the W League down in Australia. A lot of NWSL players are down there kind of honing their craft in the off-season. And it's been fun so far. There's been a couple of injuries, of course, that people have been a little concerned about. But
yeah, a big one to Washington Spirit's starting keeper, Kelsey Weiss, who suffered an ACL tear, which is huge. But then on the other side, you've got great news for Boston Breakers with Natasha Dowie leading the W League in scoring right now.
She's been lighting it up, I feel like. Is this obviously good news for Breakers fans, Bianca?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Breakers fans definitely need to see that a lot more. Goals for sure for them, but also just seeing Natasha Dowie do so well overseas, it's hopeful that they can come back and be able to produce in the NWSL season here.
You're obviously very close to the Houston Dash down there, from where you're located. I mean, I know you go to school out west, but you call Houston that area home. From some of the Dash players' perspectives, who have you liked so far that's out on loan, and have you given us any updates at all about how they're playing?
I know Lydia Williams is doing very well with her team, but unfortunately for Bianca Henninger, the Melbourne Victory aren't doing so well right now, but she's still killing it. She's had amazing games, like from highlights I've seen, she's doing super well, so it's props to her. And in Canberra, I know Stephanie Oakes is starting and playing the whole game for her club, and they just came away with 3 points, so it's super exciting for all three of them. I can't wait to continue to support them this W League season, and I'm so excited to see them when they come back for our NWSL season.
Do you have a favorite W League team?
I have probably a top 3. I would go Canberra, because there's just so many players that I love there.
Sure.
Perth Glory, mainly for Ariana Romero, who did play with the Houston Dash in its first season. Mm-hmm. And then my last one would probably be Melbourne City, because of Steph Catley.
Ah, okay, fair enough. It's always good to keep tabs on, of course, some of your favorite players, and I know that's how some people pick their favorite teams as well. It's based off of the players that they like, of course. But the W League also coming under, not getting some praise, I feel like, too, from women's soccer supporters, because a lot of these games are televised, while the NWSL games are still only really being streamed on YouTube. That's been a little bit of a conflict of interest, I guess, for some people. Be like, well, how come we're streaming a league, or we're showing a league that is not even at the same level as the NWSL? I'm curious to get your thoughts about that.
Well, at first, when I found out the news, it was very exciting and also surprising that the W League was able to get such a deal, because half of their games are going to be streamed on ESPN3, while we can't even get like half a season on the ESPN as the league made in America. So what I found out was like the ESPN offered the A League a deal with with their games and stuff this season, but A League told them, we're only going to take you guys if you also stream W League games as well. So I guess that's how they snuck in, which is super smart. And I think only one of the clubs in W League isn't associated with an A League team. But either way, it's great for them. And I think only the doubleheader games are being televised, but still, it's amazing that they could pull that off.
It's better than the 5 or 6 games, I think, total that the NWSL had streamed on either ESPN or Fox or FS1, I think, this year.
Oh, yeah, much better.
Yeah, I would say the one difference there is those games were actually on television, versus W League being internet only, which I know for most of the season that's what NWSL is. Mm-hmm. Question for you: the signing with Seattle, or re-signing by Beverly Yanez, is that a big deal, or is she more of the type of player that it's nice to have on the team, but really is not going to make much impact unless, of course, she's playing against the Houston Dash?
I think it's a pretty solid signing. She's very much become a core of the Seattle Reign, and she's when she's called upon, she is able to produce, and I think that's big for Seattle, especially in losing a bunch of their midfield this year, but also looking at their new signing of Christine Nair, and that's also very huge. So I feel like Yanez does play a very big part in the Seattle Reign, but she's not the end-all, be-all player for them.
Sorry, so I had to throw that dig in there because it was her goal that kept Seattle perfect against the Dash this season.
Yeah, that was rough.
Everybody's got a team that they're good at scoring on, I guess. It's kind of crazy. All right, Bianca, the last thing we need to talk to you about before we have to let you go is the one thing that many women's soccer, and actually just in general, soccer fans and national media continue to talk about. It's that 60-minute special that several of the U.S. women's national team players had air a couple of days ago. What were your initial takeaways from the way that the information was portrayed and just the overall argument, I guess, that the women are trying to make?
I feel like from watching the 60 Minutes, it's basically the same stuff they've been saying since the beginning, which isn't too surprising. But I think the fact that they have not ruled out a strike is actually a very big deal because that affects a lot of their income and things like that. So I just feel like at this point they're just trying to make everyone more aware of the issues going on because there's still a lot of people who don't really understand their fight and why they're fighting. But honestly, I think they should just keep doing what they're doing and gain more national attention because then it's going to be a problem that USSF can't ignore anymore.
Bianca, I have to say, when the news of all of this first came out, I was completely on board with supporting everything the women are going for. And, it's hard to explain this, that ultimately I am. However, I have to say I felt the women were being a bit disingenuous with this continual line of saying they don't get paid unless they win. They get a 12-month contract in which minimally they're getting paid $72,000 a year. Thoughts on that?
I feel like it's I haven't completely looked into their salaries and everything, just kind of seen the surface stuff, so I can't necessarily say that they're right or they're wrong.
Fair enough.
But I feel like there is something wrong with the fact that they don't, the way that they get paid isn't the same as the way that the men get paid because, yes, men's soccer is bigger and has been around longer, but also the women have been producing, and the fact that they don't get to earn what they feel like they deserve to earn based on how the men do is very, I think that's the issue there.
At the same time, and I know you said you haven't really looked into the financial part too much. At the same time, this is what the women pushed for. They pushed for salaried positions over bonuses. So it to me, it gets down to be, as I said before, a bit disingenuous when you're getting what you agreed to and then coming out and complaining about that. I just wonder, at what point do they just make this more of a collecting, a CBA argument with the threat of the strike, which I'm all for.
I know for them it's very they want to be equal to the men, which sometimes I also get confused in what they're really fighting for. Are they fighting for bonuses when they win, or do they want the salary that they win? It's very confusing. And with the CBA, I tried to look into it once and it was just too much for me to handle. So I was like, okay, not really sure what's going on here. But I feel like even then, I feel like their fight should still continue because even with U.S. soccer, you look down to the NWSL and rookies are getting paid $6K, and obviously that's not enough to make a living. So I feel like they should also broaden their fight for not only just people who are with U.S. soccer, but also NWSL players, because it's just ridiculous that they are expected to live with such a small salary.
Absolutely, and that's something we saw in MLS. The players' union fight to get rid of that starting salary of $12,700 years ago. But either way, we could talk about this all day long, Bianca. But I want to personally thank you for coming back on the show.
Absolutely, Bianca.
Yeah, of course.
It's a pleasure to always have you on. And just to kind of go off of that, too, what you were saying, I mean, there was that documentary, I believe, that came out earlier in the year, a short one about then Boston Breakers player Rachel Wood, too, showing the struggle of that there's, you have to get another job in the off season basically because you just, these NWSL players that aren't federation players, you can't survive basically. You need to be able to have that extra money. So I think if they did turn their tune towards the NWSL as a whole instead of just the federation players, that's only a group of maybe 30 players. So it's definitely an ongoing argument. But either way, Bianca, we are grateful for having you on the show. Can you tell people where they can find your work and find you on social media, please?
Oh, yeah, I'm on VAVEL. If you just search VAVEL.com, you'll find the NWSL section. And also, you can find me on Twitter at Bianca Verar. That's VERAWR. And other than that, I'm linked on Facebook, so you can find me there.
Awesome, Bianca. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. All right, we're going to run to a break. There goes Bianca on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. We have a new guest that will be joining us in our fourth segment, a late addition to the program, but we're excited about it. Milwaukee Wave head coach Giuliano Oliverio is going to jump on the program and chat with us for a little bit and give us an update. The Wave, they're 2-3, and I'm sure he's got some thoughts about that and how some of his players have been doing so far. But when we come back, it's time for Simon to take the top off, literally and figuratively, on Jurgen Klinsmann. I'm sure he'll play the I Told You So card, and we'll talk about the MLS playoffs as well. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. Stay tuned for more. It's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Simon Provan, the show rolling right along. Special thanks to Bianca Verar for joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line on our last segment to help us sort through the NWSL, the U.S. Women's National Team, and the W League as well, too. I think it's good entertainment if you like to keep up with the women's soccer when the U.S. Women's National Team isn't playing their games. So special thanks to Queen Bee, as she goes by, for stopping by the program. All right, Simon, we've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. You've been calling for it almost as long as you've been calling for hashtag Fire Caleb Porter, even though it depends on the day for you for Fire Caleb Porter. I think you only said that, once or twice this whole MLS season?
I don't think I said it at all this season because because I felt for the man and how many injuries he had to deal with, and there were more injuries for the Portland Timbers than any other club when you're looking at their starting 11.
And I hope people listening also do the same thing for Mike McCarthy and the Green Bay Packers as well, because there's a lot of people that are also calling for his head.
Well, he needs to be fired.
Okay, never mind then. We'll roll along, I guess. All right, so yes, if you heard the news, Jurgen Klinsmann has officially been fired. Sunil Gulati at 3:11 p.m. Eastern Time yesterday dropped the bomb on the world, saying, all right, he's done, he's gone, he's no longer the coach, he's no longer the technical director, which you, Simon, I know we're kind of pushing for, like if you're going to fire him, get rid of the coach, but maybe the technical director kind of, sort of.
Yeah, but even that, Baxter, look, you've had two teams... 2 cycles now not make the Olympics under his watch. You've had several youth, and of course we're talking men's and boys side, several youth teams not make the World Cup in their age groups, which was really unheard of until he took over. I mean, that was one of the great things about the U.S. youth program is they were continually making World Cups, continually making the Olympics. And, even Klinsmann had kept coming out and saying, they need this experience. But under his watch, and I don't care if you're going to say, well, it's only been 5 years and those reverberations are going to be felt years from now. The thing you're going to feel years from now is more and more players still haven't had that intense international experience at tournaments that mean something. So ultimately, I'm okay with him being let go as technical director. My point then was simply he shouldn't be coaching the U.S. men's team. He's still using that as a developmental process, and I'm not sorry, but at the top level, at the senior team, it's no longer about player development. It's about picking the players, playing them in their positions to win games. And we haven't seen either of those things happen under Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah, 5 years. He cost the United States $20 million in terms of the contract money that he wanted over the time that he was here. So some will say that's $20 million they'll never get back. There were obviously positives and negatives to his career. Some folks are certainly saying, well, he beat Holland, he beat Germany. Those are B teams, let's be honest.
And let's be honest, those are friendlies.
Yes.
It doesn't, that doesn't mean a damn.
You're right.
At the end of
you're
the day.
absolutely right about
What matters, and this is the list that I shared last week, and when I was saying this is enough, is you look at the firsts that he has accomplished. First to lose to Jamaica on home soil. First to lose to Jamaica, period, since the 60s or 70s. First to lose a World Cup qualifier on home soil in 15 years. First... I don't have the list in front of me like I had it last week. But anyways, it's a list of firsts of futility.
Yes. No, and I agree.
That's not a record you want. And people saying, well, he's brought us forward. I don't see where that happens. And for this man to keep coming out and saying, well, you don't understand soccer if you call for my firing. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we do understand soccer, and that's what he's never gotten, that there actually are intelligent soccer people in this country.
Exactly, and I think that is ultimately, and I heard a good argument, too, that people were still hung up on the fact of Jurgen Klinsmann and his success as a player, and that overshadowed and allowed him to scoot by for so many years as a manager, because it's like, well, Jurgen did all these great things as a player. Of course he knows the game, but playing and coaching are two totally different worlds.
Look, Baxter, I don't care how you feel about Klinsmann. Look at the promises he made 5 years ago.
Yeah,
They've never came to fruition. And when you're still using World Cup qualifiers as experiments, you have no purpose. You have no reason to belong as the head coach of any national team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. I think that there's only so much that you can do as a national team coach, and I think a lot of folks do agree, myself included, that 4 years is enough for one manager.
Well, and on top of this, I just keep going back to his own words. That, for me, is what all matters. When he first took over, he said, we got to get to a place in this country where if you lose a game, it's difficult for you as a player to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You got to hold yourself to that same standard. People have been watching Klinsmann. They've been seeing him start a 3-5-2 against Mexico when he's never used that formation before, and he comes out and says, well, it worked in practice. You're not playing against Mexico in practice. You use the system that's going to help you win games. I understand he wants to revolutionize the way the U.S. plays, but counterattacking has always worked. You want to sit there and say, well, that's boring soccer? That's the American way, and it is right now. And you have to use a system that works towards the strengths of your players. And when you're constantly playing players out of position, you're not using the correct system.
Exactly.
On top of that, when you see a game like they had against Mexico, and then he comes out and says, well, Jones and Bradley, they weren't attacking like I wanted them to. You go back to that Mexico goal, Bradley was the only one attacking on that, trying to stop them. The Mexican team got through everybody else. So it's like Klinsmann's watching games that none of us are watching.
Exactly, and obviously he sees things differently as a coach than commentators and fans and statisticians, of course, see it as well too. But at the end of the day, as you and many people have said too, and myself included, the results just haven't been there. It's a results-based business, and if you don't perform, especially in competitions, it's one thing to have a stellar friendly record, but like you said, if you don't win in the Gold Cups and in the Confederations Cup and the other games you have to. If you don't, you're no longer fit to be the manager.
Well, and that's the other thing too, Baxter, is people are saying, the Klinsmann fans out there are saying, but he's done better than any other coach. Look at his winning record. I don't care about the record. What I care about is how have you done in international tournaments.
Exactly.
Yes, he got us out of the group of the death in the World Cup.
Yep.
I get that. And you can say, well, he made it all the way to the semifinals of the Copa America, but let's be honest, in those semifinals game,
you should have.
They should have, and they were horrible.
Yes.
They were absolutely horrible in that semifinal and fourth place game.
Exactly, and you and I said this too. We're like, if the United States don't make it to the semifinals of the Copa America, then this is a failure.
Absolutely.
So that was the
expectation.
Exactly.
Right,
like if we wanted them in the final. And sure enough, they didn't, because Argentina and Messi do their things, of course, which can only be blamed on so many people. I mean, Lionel Messi is
But hey,
the
guess
wild
what?
card.
1995, where did the U.S. finish in Copa America? Third place. Has Klinsmann taken him to a Confederations Cup? No, he hasn't. Have they been there before him? Yes, they have.
Yes, they have with Bob Bradley.
Have they beaten Mexico on home soil every time they've played them since 2001? Yes, they have.
Mm-hmm.
First to lose to Mexico on home soil since he's taken over.
Yeah. No, I agree, and people can go back and forth about certain players didn't step up in certain positions and all that. Exactly, I know.
Listen,
fires people up.
If Bruce Arena can take a team in 2002 with less talent, less playing experience, with 11 MLS players, might I add, and a very, very young MLS, to the quarterfinals of a World Cup, and now Klinsmann has players from the Bundesliga, from the Premier League, and we're sitting here looking at 0-2 in World Cup qualifying.
Yeah.
I did want to change gears here a little bit, still on this topic, but David Bobke had commented on our page asking, this is his quote, so if Bruce Arena takes over, what are your thoughts about that, and why should an average fan such as myself be excited about Arena taking over when he's been there and done that before? I don't recall him being that great. He had a 50% winning percentage, hence my average fan status. What would it bring to the U.S. team now that he didn't have back then? Just more experience? Well, I would say this. First of all, great question, especially from an average fan.
Thank you, David.
I'll go back to, for me, winning percentages actually don't matter.
No.
Because a lot of that has to do with friendlies. It's what have you done at World Cup tournaments. So David, what Bruce Arena had been able to do is just what I talked about, take a team to the quarterfinals. Yep. It's the farthest a U.S. team has gone in modern American soccer, that era starting in 1990.
Yep.
Stan Anderson, who was a guest on our show, had talked about how Bob Gansler was able to take a team of college players to the World Cup in 1990.
Yep.
The big thing Bruce Arena brings to the U.S. team, and first of all, this is going to be a stopgap. This is not going to be a long-term hire. It'll be a stopgap. But what he brings is belief to the players.
Exactly.
If you can convince players that they believe in themselves, and I think Klinsmann, that's another thing that I would have to... Thanks for giving me all this time, by the way, Baxter. But that's the thing that Klinsmann would constantly tell us, that the U.S. isn't good enough, that they're not going to do well. Okay, when your players keep hearing that, if they're not strong enough mentally, they're going to start believing that. And I think we actually started to see that. Whereas Bruce Arena takes this group of young players, and some of them older, and gets them to believe in themselves. There was a documentary years ago out in which, I think it was during it may have been the 2002 World Cup.
Okay.
But Arena finished every single one of his locker speeches with, remember, you're playing for the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
Go out there and represent us.
Exactly. And I think that's certainly something that I think the team has been okay at times, but there's still so much that has yet to be decided, and more than likely it will be Bruce Arena that gets the job. That's what a lot of the sources are tabbing, saying it's going to be him. I do think Arena's a quick fix.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
He's not,
well, the thing is, he's familiar with the U.S. program. He's familiar with international soccer.
And right now, all the U.S. soccer cares about is qualifying for the World Cup, because Lord knows that if they don't qualify for the World Cup, that the world will fall apart.
There is no reason we should not be qualifying for the World Cup out of CONCACAF. There's no reason we should be 0-2. It's not the players. I'm telling you, Arena's going to take this team to qualification.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, Giuliano Oliverio of the Milwaukee Wave, the head coach, will be joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Stay tuned for more. It's 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub.
Another, but I probably should not. I got somebody at home, and if I stay, I might not leave alone.
Back inside the studio, it's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon Provan. As we roll along, we want to remind all of you, Tuesdays and Thursdays live from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time. You can find Two Up Front live on Spreaker.com. And, of course, if you miss any episodes, you can go to our website, twoupfrontsoccer.com, to find ways to go and listen to it. And we always love hearing from you, of course, as well. And there's multiple ways to do that, right, Simon?
Of course, you can find us all over the place. Of course, here on Spreaker.com, you can find us live as well as on demand. And other places you can find us on demand. Get ready for this list. iTunes, iHeartRadio, VAVEL USA, Sports Podcasting Network, and we have another one to add to that.
We do, yeah. PlayingFor90.com, a part of the Fan-Sided Network as well. We'll start airing our episodes as well Tuesdays and Thursdays. So a special thanks to PlayingFor90.com and the Fan-Sided Network as a whole. It's great to continue adding to the many places that fans can listen to our wonderful show. All right, we had an opportunity to welcome in studio a couple of weeks ago Milwaukee Wave head coach Giuliano Oliverio, Simon, and he was giving us a preview about the upcoming MASL season with the Milwaukee Wave. And now they've had a couple of games under their belt. They kind of have an idea of who they are, but no one knows the team better than the man that is pulling all the strings. It is Coach Oliverio joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Coach, welcome back to Two Up Front, sir.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Coach. We're excited to have you back on the program. A couple of games under your belt so far, 2-3 season. Ian Bennett is scoring goals, of course, as many folks know. But how are you viewing this Wave team through the first 5 regular season games?
We went into the first game kind of injury riddled, and it didn't go so great in Kansas City. We lost 11-4. But we got some players back. Max Ferdinand missed the first game. We lost Marcio Leite to an ankle injury. He'll be gone for a while. And, game 2, we went into Baltimore. And it was their ring ceremony night, championship banner night. We beat them 4-3, and it was looking great. Following night, we went to Harrisburg. We had a 4-1 lead in the fourth quarter. And we have a young team, a talented but young team, and we couldn't close it out. We ended up losing that game in overtime. Fast forward to the following week, we're in Cedar Rapids. We have a 4-2 lead with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Can't hang on to that lead. 4-4, we go to overtime and we lose that game as well. So a couple winnable games that we feel we should have had. Turned around Saturday, November 19th, and we played Kansas City Comets again, and we got off the bus at, I want to say, 3 a.m. coming back from Iowa. So I wasn't sure what kind of energy the players were going to bring and the mentality after losing 2 heartbreakers in overtime. But they went out there and played just a fantastic game in their home opener, and they beat the Kansas City Comets 6-5. And, so if you look at it, we're 2-3, not where we want to be, but our 2 wins are probably against the 2 top teams in the league. So if you look at the potential on this team, we're as good as anybody.
I think some of the positives you can take away as well, Coach, is, you won your first home game, and you look at the road record. Yeah, you gave up 3 losses, but you did get a win. And I think on the road with a young team, especially in the MASL where you are doing a lot of bus traveling, I think that actually says a lot of positive things, especially playing against a team like the Baltimore Blast and walking away with that 4-3 win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge confidence booster for our young guys and even some of the veterans that see what these young guys are capable of, and they're only going to get better as the season goes on. And, your goal in this league is to try and go undefeated at home and 500 on the road. Once you attain, a five wins on the road, you kind of reset your goal. And our goal is that, we're 1-0 at home. Right now, we're 1-3 on the road. Not the easiest schedule. 4 or 5 have been on the road. Our next one, we'll be back in Cedar Rapids on Saturday, and it's a game that I think our players believe they can get.
Well, I do have to ask you about the game on the 19th. You were celebrating 33 years of Wave alumni. Do you think having the alums there helped boost the energy over at the UWM Panther Arena?
Absolutely. Actually, I added that to my pregame speech and just saying, these guys are watching. These guys have been in your shoes. You can send them a message and let them know, kind of an old school attitude. They want to see players that get up and down the floor, blue-collar mentality, working hard, and just showing them your intelligence on the field. And I felt, not only the home crowd, but having the alumni there is just huge in sparking these guys and giving them the adrenaline they needed to get through that game.
And, of course, a lot of those players, too, that are watching, I mean, let's face it, they have some championship rings on their fingers.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough crowd to impress. I mean, if you look at the Waves' history and success and tradition, I mean, nothing less is expected than a championship out of the Wave organization every year, and that's kind of the mentality that Nick Forberg and Marcelo Fontana and myself are trying to install into our players.
Well, one thing you guys have been successful on this season is power play goals. Ian Bennett leads the league with 4 power play goals so far. Obviously, having a player like Ian Bennett on your team is incredibly helpful. But from the supporting cast around Bennett and the fact that you've been able to exploit power play goals, what have your thoughts been about the offensive side of the ball rather than the defensive side?
You know what? Our goal coming into this season was the defensive side of the ball. It's something where we lacked the last couple of seasons. And apart from the first game in Kansas City, we gave up 11. We turned around, and we kind of want to give up 4 less on the defensive side of the ball, knowing that we do have an explosive offense. And that really hasn't been the case up until Saturday. I mean, we're averaging 4 goals a game. I want to say we want to average closer to 6 goals a game and 4 goals against. And Saturday against Kansas City was actually the only time we achieved a 6-goal performance this year. You know what, though? We're not too disappointed about it because we know we have the players that can put up goals, that can assist. I mean, you look at Max Ferdinand. I think potentially all of Ian Bennett's goals have been assisted by Max Ferdinand, who's one of the most exciting players in the league as well. And I think him and Ian complement each other really well. So offensively, we're not where we want to be on the stat sheet, but we know the potential's there to explode at any time.
Is it safe to say that the Central Division is probably the hardest of all 4 of the divisions in the MASL?
It's not even close. I mean, it is by far the most competitive division. You got the Chicago Mustangs that are 2-0 right now that can compete for a championship, that won the championship in the other league before the 2 leagues merged a couple of years back. Kansas City Comets, who in my opinion have been the best team the last 4 years. Cedar Rapids put together a potential playoff team. And then there's ourselves. So it's definitely, if you look across every division, we're definitely the most competitive division. It's the toughest division, and this year only 2 teams make the playoffs from each division. So
wow,
basically it's 20 playoff games you're looking at.
Well, of course, you had mentioned that your next game is an away game at Cedar Rapids, but your next home game has a lot of history to it, taking on the St. Louis Ambush. I remember being a kid and, watching my older brother play, but even before Steve was on the team, just going to those Milwaukee-St. Louis games. And I'm curious, is that rivalry still there? Or I know the Ambush had been on hold for a few years. Is this another rivalry, like back in the making, I guess you could say?
Yeah, definitely. Back when your brother played it, I mean, that Ambush team was one of the top teams in the league, and you look at the tradition in St. Louis and the players they develop locally. It's one of the hotbeds in the country, and they're off to a slow start this year. They went on hiatus for a few years, so they're slowly getting back into it. Definitely never an easy game. They have a legend coaching them, Tony Glavin, who played back in the 80s, who was played in the NASL. So they're in good hands there. They're slowly getting better and always competitive. They're always competitive. I'll say that about the St. Louis Ambush.
Well, Giuliano, I want to wish you the best of luck with the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll have you back on the shopfutsal.com call-in line without a doubt. But thank you for your time today.
All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Coach. Same to you as well. We look forward to having you back on again soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. All right, we are going to run to a break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. Some breaking news in U.S. soccer. It's not like we didn't even need to bother to talk about or predict who was going to be the manager when U.S. Soccer's already gone and done it. But we'll talk about that. We'll briefly talk about the MLS playoffs, and we'll wrap things up. You're listening to 2 Up Front, presented by 3 Lions Pub. Right after this, we'll be back with more. Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon Provan, we've got some breaking news. Would you like to break it?
Sure. If you haven't seen it already, Bruce Arena has officially been named head of the U.S. men's national team.
Round 3.
Now, it doesn't say if he will be coaching them in the World Cup. I got to believe that if he gets them qualified for the World Cup, they're going to stick with him and know that at the end of the World Cup, it'll be a new coach being announced.
I would assume so. I did hear one thing that some folks were saying on the radio recently. They said, well, if it is Bruce Arena, why not bring in who that potential next coach might be as an assistant under him?
Sure, that's a great idea. I love it.
Caleb
That's a great
Porter,
idea.
Jason Kreis, some of those other guys. People forget that Jason Kreis was an assistant for Jurgen Klinsmann as well for 2016.
Well, I actually wonder, there's been a lot of chatter about Peter Vermes about taking over
That's what I've also
at the end of the
heard,
World
yep.
Cup. So
Tab Ramos, among others as well.
I don't know if I'd be too thrilled about Tab, considering he hasn't done that well with the U20s, and he's one of Jurgen Klinsmann's handpicked guys as well.
True.
So it makes you wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. Tab was... I know you probably didn't get to watch him play, Baxter. Man, he was... Talk about a player ahead of his time as an American, the way he controlled the midfield. He was phenomenally skilled foot-wise as well, the way he read the game. He spent time in La Liga. He was so exciting to watch. The old days thinking of Tab Ramos, Ernie Stewart.
Yeah.
These lines of players. That same thing that Klinsmann has done. They weren't born in the U.S., but they had, because I believe Tab was born in Uruguay, if I remember. Of course, Ernie Stewart from the Netherlands. But same thing, they had fathers or mothers that were in the U.S. military. Either way, that's the one thing I'll say about Tab. But we've seen how player success does not always equate to coaching success.
Exactly. Well, we are excited about now the potential future. The world is now watching again, now that we have an official national team coach. Who will be his first camp called in? What players? Will it be the old guard, the new guard? Who knows?
Well, and you've seen other countries bring in an interim coach that he knew was going to be interim. Mm-hmm. Also stayed with his club team. So I'm wondering, I haven't looked at the Galaxy webpage, and maybe I'll do that as you talk here for a little bit. But I'm curious if it's going to be a dual role for him.
And I do know that his contract is done at the end of this year, so we'll have to see what they decide to do. Switching gears, though, to MLS as a whole, tonight kicks off the conference championships for the Western and Eastern Conference. Montreal hosting Toronto FC and Seattle hosting Colorado. Those games on ESPN and FS1, respectively, at 7 and 9 p.m. Central Time as well. Montreal, arguably the underdog against TFC, especially with their late season surge. But at the same time, Montreal has done a fair share of overcoming a lot of the giants that they've had to face.
Sorry, Baxter, going back to the LA Galaxy. They are searching for a new head coach and general manager.
Interesting. Hashtag Jurgen Klinsmann. He lives in LA already.
He does.
As well.
He does.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Wouldn't it be something if Klinsmann takes over for the Galaxy and then next year, the year after, we hear Arena coaching LAFC? Anyways,
I would be all for that.
Or Steven Gerrard. I mean, he just turned down
Stevie
MK
G.
Dons.
That's right.
No, he's going to be at Liverpool.
Yeah, more than likely. Why wouldn't he be?
Right.
As long as he doesn't slip on his way into the stadium, that's all that matters.
Well, anyways, Montreal, Toronto. I think you're absolutely right, Baxter. Montreal is the underdog in this. However, they're going to be playing at Olympic Stadium.
Yeah, 60,000 people are going to be there tonight. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's absolutely
awesome.
amazing. And some folks were saying, but it's on a Tuesday night. Not for the Canadians. They don't care.
That's right.
This is the first chance to make Canadian soccer history.
It's already history for the fact that you have two Canadian teams playing against each other in the Eastern Conference. You got TFC, who's both of these teams are very explosive.
Yes.
I think Montreal Impact tends to be more susceptible in the back.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But if they can shut down Giovinco, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out for the Impact, because don't forget the Impact have Nacho Piatti, who's been playing out of his mind lately.
And that's what a lot of folks have been looking at, the Giovinco versus Piatti battle. Of course, they won't be really defending each other because they'll be running rampant on their own ways, so the defenses will have to worry about it. But there are a lot of players, though, that actually are in yellow card trouble as well. Both Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley are already on a yellow card, so if they get another one in the match tonight, they will not be eligible for the second leg.
Which would be huge. So you're going to wonder how that's going to affect their play tonight. And these are two players who are hot-headed, let's be honest.
Yes, there's a couple from Montreal as well who I can't seem to find. I believe Simon and a couple others are also on yellow cards. So both teams have notable players in yellow card trouble, which, if any of them go out, would certainly make it interesting in the second leg. An opportunity for maybe a young gun to rise above and showcase, Jordan Hamilton among others. You never know.
I'm going to go out on a limb here right away. I mean, you look at the spine of Toronto FC, Clint Irwin, of course, in goal, Drew Moore in the back, Michael Bradley, as you had already mentioned, along with Osario in the middle with Bradley, and then, of course, Giovinco up top. Altidore as well. I don't know if I'd consider Altidore part of that spine, but Toronto has a really strong spine to going into this game that I think you look at that against Toronto's. Yeah, they got Seaman. Bush has been playing okay in goal, and of course Beati.
Bush is another one in the middle cards as well.
Right, and you look up top. If Drogba plays, that's a strong player. But well, I'm going to disagree with you. I think they play better without Drogba in there.
Yeah, you've mentioned that a couple of times this season, especially after it was fairly obvious that Drogba's not himself as he was in 2015 with his 11 goals in 11 games. So we'll have to see. Maybe he's more of a substitution, can come in and kind of change the dynamic of the game. But you take if Piatti is not being effective or he's silenced, that doesn't really leave a lot of other consistent, dominant options for the Impact to put goals in the back of the net. Yeah,
I do think you'll see I never say his name right. Mankasu playing in place of Drogba.
Okay.
I think you're going to be looking at a 4-1-4 with Montreal, probably playing against that 3-5-2, the dreaded 3-5-2 if you're an American
fan.
Love it. But a 3-5-2 for Toronto FC. So those are two formations that will call for a very interesting game. Both of those formations obviously very attack-minded.
Yes, I would agree with that. Quickly flipping over to Seattle. Well, let's Montreal TFC. Who do you got in this game?
Even though it's at Montreal, I'm actually going to take a draw on this one.
That was honestly my same thought. I can see a 1-1 draw tonight, I feel like. I think both teams, Montreal might find that early goal with those 60,000 people screaming their heads off, but I think TFC finds a way to equalize just because of how Josie Altidore especially has been doing fairly well across the board.
And I think we'll have a more clear picture. Obviously, we'll have a more clear picture next week, but what I mean by that is if any of these players pick up a yellow card, these important players, well, they're all important, but you know what we're talking about.
Of course.
That'll really determine next week's result.
Exactly. The big storyline going into the Western Conference Championship, Tim Howard is out for the year, and Gashi is also doubtful for leg 1. So right away, Colorado, who seem to be the Cinderella story, are down 2 of their best players.
Gashi with the goal of the playoffs, the goal of the year. To lose him is huge because, let's face it, Colorado doesn't have that much of an offense the way it is. I mean, they do have Baji in there. Latu, when he steps up, does all right, but you're not looking at much of an offense. Doyle's been a little bit of a disappointment this year. When we're talking about the amount of goals being scored, I'm not saying that this team is bad with their play up front, but they just don't score a lot of goals, Baxter. And then you're looking on the other side, Ladero, Morris.
Morris will still be out for this one, too.
Oh, he is? Okay. Yeah. Well, either way, you still have Ladero in there. You have Fernandez. Do we know about Alonso yet?
I don't see anything about Alonso. Dempsey we know for sure is out, but then they're saying obviously, Jordan Morris and Alvaro Fernandez are to be determined right now.
Okay.
So we know Morris had that hamstring injury a couple weeks ago. Has it been enough time? I don't know if there's ever enough time for a hamstring.
So maybe you see a Hercules Gomez in there, which that'll be interesting because he hasn't played 90 minutes a lot this season.
Exactly. Predictions in this one?
It's in Seattle. I'm actually going to go with... Tell you what, I'm going to go 2-0 Seattle.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, Zach McMath is going to be back in the goal, but it's been a long time since he's been in the goal. It's one thing to play consistent in goal, but to not be in goal and then thrown back in again, especially in a high-pressure situation, I don't know if that's going to work in the Rapids' favor.
I don't either, but I will say, he came out last week and said, I've been looking forward to this. I've been ready this entire time. I've been training hard.
Would get hurt. Awesome. Thank
Which,
you,
of
Tim.
course, he's not going to come out and say that, but... I don't think in the end he was incredibly sad when Tim went down and he realized, I get to play in the Western Conference Final.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it because the Rapids were doing better on defense with McMath than they were with Howard.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting thing for sure.
So,
I've got Seattle winning too.
Okay, I'm actually going to take it back and say 1-0 though. My score is 1-0. Still Seattle, but I don't think they're going to score as many as I first thought. Colorado's
so weird. Baji's played good down the stretch, so I could maybe see him squeaking a goal in and maybe it being like a 2-1 sort of game, or even maybe another 1-1 draw, and it's all still up in the air going into those second legs. But the away goals are going to be massive tonight, no matter who you ask.
Very true, and I will tell you what, I'm going to do an early prediction, Baxter. I think Colorado wins next week.
Okay.
3-1.
Ooh, so we have a Toronto final?
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I want Toronto definitely to represent.
Listen, I'm not going to be surprised, though, if Montreal makes it.
No,
I really won't.
At this point, with everything they've overcome so far, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd be a little bit more surprised if Seattle goes through.
Interesting.
I don't know why. That's just my gut. Sometimes you just go with your gut.
Hey, that's all that matters, I guess. All right, well, we have had a fantastic show. It was great to finally be back in the studio with Simon. It's been far too long, so I'm glad to be back. And we had a great show as well with all the guests joining us. We had Bianca Verar of VAVEL USA and the Milwaukee Wave head coach Giuliano Oliverio.
Jumping on last minute, so thanks again, Giuliano.
Yes, joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. And, of course, our new sponsor, Fred Gillich from Too Much Metal, joining us as our new sponsor of the Kick Around, which you can hear at the beginning of every single show. We will not be here on Thursday. Go and celebrate Thanksgiving with your loved ones and talk about soccer, complain about 3-5-2s, and do things that people love to talk about, I guess. And enjoy the food, of course.
Absolutely. And, chat with your families about Bruce Arena and Klinsman. Don't talk about Trump and Clinton and all that. It'll be a much better thing. Well, actually, in some households, you might actually want to talk more Trump.
I say you might be. It's just so much easier. Some people might just throw things. All right, well, he's Simon Provent. I'm Baxter Colburn. Happy Thanksgiving, of course, from all of us here at Two Up Front. With our manager being the one above, we are Two Up Front.